Monty's smile wasn't just a smile. It was a warning, a secret, and a plan all at once. Could he have known exactly what was about to happen? Could he have predicted Cami would fire Tommy? The shocking truth hidden in the will might just prove that nothing in Season 3 was an accident. From the very first episodes of Season 3, Monty's presence loomed over the LANDMAN estate like a quiet storm waiting to strike. On the surface, he seemed charming, polite, even loyal to those around him, but beneath the calm exterior, there was a mind constantly calculating, always thinking 3 steps ahead. Viewers might have noticed the small, almost unnoticed moments where Monty's eyes lingered just a second too long on Tommy, or where his words carried double meanings. Every conversation, every smile, every gesture was carefully measured, as if he was setting up a sequence of events that only he could see clearly. It's in these subtle hints that the first seeds of the theory take root. Monty wasn't just watching what was happening. He was quietly steering a dot as the tension between Cami and Tommy began to grow. Monty seemed to occupy a peculiar position in the household. He was neither fully involved in their disputes nor completely detached. Instead, he appeared to be observing with a calm patience that made other characters uncomfortable. Even if they didn't realize it, this detachment was key. It allowed him to watch the reactions of both Cami and Tommy, to predict how each would respond under pressure. Monty's knowledge of Tommy's work habits, his reliability, and his temperament became tools in an invisible toolkit. Every small failure, every hesitation by Tommy became more than just a moment. It became evidence that Monty could use, a piece of a larger puzzle only he understood. Monty's interactions with Cami were even more telling. On the outside, he seemed supportive, even slightly cautious, never pushing her toward a decision, but subtly reinforcing the consequences of choices she already seemed likely to make. It's in this subtle influence that the theory begins to make sense. Monty didn't need to force Cami's hand directly. He only needed to create a situation where the outcome seemed inevitable, where her decision to fire Tommy appeared to be her own, when in reality, it had been quietly guided from the beginning. Viewers who look back at these interactions can start to notice patterns, a pointed comment here, a timely reminder there, and always a look that suggested he already knew what was coming. The real breakthrough in understanding Monty's plan comes with the will. While it may seem like a simple document on the surface, the wording, the conditions, and even the timing of its presentation point to someone who had anticipated every step. The clauses in the will were not random or purely formal. They were carefully crafted to benefit Monty, to protect him, and to ensure that the fallout from Tommy's firing worked in his favor. When we examine the will closely, it becomes almost impossible to dismiss the idea that Monty had seen the entire scenario unfold in his mind before it even happened. He had the foresight to predict the emotional reactions, the business consequences, and even the potential conflicts between Cami and Tommy. What might seem like luck, coincidence, or chances, when viewed through this lens, evidence of a carefully orchestrated strategy, even beyond the text of the will. Monty's demeanor before and after key events reinforces the idea that he was always in control. He never appeared panicked or surprised. Instead, he maintained a quiet confidence, a sense of inevitability, as if every piece of the LANDMAN household was moving exactly as he expected. His calmness in moments of tension was unsettling, but in hindsight, it makes perfect sense. Monty was not reacting to events, he had predicted them. The firing of Tommy by Cami, which might have seemed like an impulsive or emotional decision, was actually a culmination of Monty's invisible hand guiding the situation from the start. By the end of this first section, the audience begins to understand that Season 3's storyline is not just about conflict and drama. It's about manipulation, foresight, and strategy. Monty is not merely a supporting character or a bystander. He's a central force driving the narrative. Every interaction he has, every seemingly small choice, carries weight. The idea that he knew Cami would fire Tommy is not just plausible when examined closely. it becomes almost undeniable. The will, the gestures, the carefully timed words, all of it points to a single truth. Monty's mind was always several steps ahead, and nothing in Season 3 happened without his subtle, calculating influence. Monty's genius in Season 3 wasn't about grand gestures or loud declarations. It was in the quiet moments, the little nudges that most people wouldn't even notice until it was too late. Every glance he gave, every comment he made, was carefully calculated. He didn't need to confront Cami or manipulate Cami directly. Instead, he used timing, suggestion, and implication to plant ideas in their minds, letting them act as if the choices were entirely their own. This is what makes the theory so compelling. Monty's strategy was invisible yet highly effective. From the very beginning, it seems as though he was playing a game only he understood, a game where the end result had already been decided in his favor. Watching Monty interact with Tommy, it's impossible not to notice the subtle undercurrents of tension he creates without seeming confrontational. A look here, a question there, a casual remark that seems innocent on the surface but carries layers of meaning. Monty knows Tommy's weaknesses, his ambitions, and his sense of loyalty, and he leverages these quietly. He never forces Tommy into a corner. He merely makes the edges of the room feel narrower, making Tommy feel as though the choices available are limited. It's a kind of psychological pressure that doesn't scream manipulation but works exactly the same way. The more you watch, the more you realize that Monty isn't reacting to Tommy, he's predicting him. Each step Tommy takes feels guided, as though he is walking along a path Monty has paved in secret. Cami's interactions with Monty reveal another layer of this invisible strategy. On the surface, she sees Monty as supportive, perhaps even a confidant, but beneath her trust lies the subtle shaping of her decisions. Monty rarely gives direct advice, yet his words linger in ways that influence her thinking. When he comments on Tommy's mistakes or points out the challenges of leadership, it seems harmless, even factual, but these statements carry weight. They act like seeds planted in fertile ground, growing in her mind until they shape her ultimate decision. By the time the moment of firing arrives, it feels like Cami arrived at the choice on her own, yet in truth, Monty's influence has already guided her hand. What makes this theory even stronger is the sequence of events leading up to the pivotal moment. Every scene where Monty is present is meticulously timed. From his casual observations to his interactions with other characters, he inserts himself just enough to be noticed, but not so much that suspicion falls on him. He lets conflicts escalate naturally, then subtly nudges the tension in the direction he desires. There's a brilliance to this invisibility. Monty achieves his goals without ever appearing to act, and the audience begins to see the pattern only when looking back. Every glance, pause, and half-smile feels purposeful in hindsight, as if Monty had foreseen every reaction from the start. Even the way he handles the will supports this idea. The will is not just a document, it's a tool, a silent agent in Monty's strategy. The timing of its presentation, the wording of its clauses, and the consequences it imposes all point towards someone who has planned carefully for every eventuality. When the firing of Tommy happens, the will's details suddenly make sense, almost like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. Monty's foresight isn't obvious at first, but when these elements come together, it becomes clear that nothing about the outcome is accidental. He has orchestrated events so that each character acts naturally, unaware that the path before them has already been subtly shaped. Monty's subtle moves are the true power of Season 3. Unlike other characters who rely on confrontation, persuasion, or manipulation through overt actions, Monty operates in the shadows, using human behavior itself as a tool. He trusts the patterns, understands the tendencies, and knows exactly how far to push or pull without exposing himself. In a way, this season becomes not just about the conflicts between Cami and Tommy, but about Monty's quiet dominance. Every action, every decision, Every reaction in the household can be traced back to his careful influence. It's a chess game in which he sees every move before it is made. And the most shocking moves, like Cami firing Tommy, are not surprises to him but expected results of the groundwork he has laid over. By the end of this section, the audience starts to realize that Monty's brilliance is not flashy or loud. It's subtle, patient, and relentless. Every smile, comment, or observation is part of a strategy designed to manipulate events without anyone noticing. The pattern of his influence becomes unmistakable, and the theory that he knew Cami would fire Tommy begins to feel less like speculation and more like a conclusion drawn from careful observation. Monty's moves are invisible, yet they control everything. The firing wasn't a decision made in isolation. It was the inevitable outcome of his quiet, precise orchestration. The will is not just a legal document in Season 3, it is Monty's secret weapon, carefully crafted to secure his plans long before anyone realizes what is happening on the surface. What makes the will so compelling is how it anticipates reactions. Monty understood the personalities of those around him intimately, especially Cami and Tommy. He knew how Cami would respond to conflict, how she would weigh loyalty against practicality, and how her decisions could be influenced by timing and subtle reminders. The will's clauses are written to take advantage of these tendencies. For example, certain instructions only come into effect if specific events occur, almost like Monty set up a chain reaction. He wasn't just thinking about what would happen if everything went perfectly. He was preparing for mistakes, for tension, and for the very emotions that would push Cami toward firing Tommy. By the time the critical moment arrives, it feels inevitable, not because of force, but because Monty has carefully set the stage for that exact outcome. The language of the will itself is revealing. Some passages emphasize responsibility, some emphasize loyalty, and some even appear to leave choices open-ended as if to empower the decision maker. But the structure is deceptive. Those choices are framed in ways that narrow the possible outcomes, steering events subtly. For viewers analyzing the text, it becomes almost like reading Monty's mind. The clauses mirror his personality: strategic, patient, and always 3 steps ahead. Each section seems innocuous when read alone, but in context, they align perfectly with the timeline of events leading up to Tommy's firing. It's like watching a domino set up and realizing the first push was invisible. Monty had set everything in motion, and the will ensured the sequence would unfold exactly as he intended. Even the timing of the will's revelation plays into the theory. Monty didn't release it too early, risking suspicion or premature reactions, nor too late, which could disrupt the momentum he had been building. It appears at just the right moment to solidify outcomes that were already subtly influenced by his prior actions. The moments leading up to its presentation, from Monty's calculated pauses to his careful choice of words in casual conversation, all serve to heighten its impact. By the time the document is fully revealed, it seems natural, almost coincidental, yet it perfectly aligns with the path he has created. In effect, the will is not just paperwork. It's a continuation of Monty's strategy, a tangible representation of his foresight and control. Monty's planning extends even further when examining how the will interacts with the personalities of other characters. Tommy's work ethic, Cami's decision-making style, and even the reactions of secondary characters all fit into a pattern that the will exploits. The document doesn't force anyone to act. Instead, it channels natural behavior into predictable outcomes. It's subtle genius. No one can accuse Monty of coercion because the decisions appear to be autonomous, yet they consistently align with his intended results. Every instruction, condition, or emphasis in the will serves a purpose, quietly guiding events from behind the scenes. By studying the will alongside Monty's actions, it becomes clear that he had more than just influence. He had foresight. The clauses not only secure his position, but also act as a silent confirmation that he anticipated the firing of Tommy before it happened. Nothing in the will is random. everything is deliberate. Every decision, every reaction, and every consequence seems mapped out in advance, proving that Monty's knowledge of Cami's eventual choice was not guesswork, but the result of careful observation and planning. The more one examines the document and compares it to the season's events, the more undeniable it becomes. Monty knew what would happen. And the will is the proof that he orchestrated it with precision. By the end of this section, the theory starts to solidify in the viewer's mind. Monty's subtle manipulations, paired with the will's strategic design, make it clear that the firing of Tommy was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was the product of an invisible plan, crafted in detail, timed to perfection, and executed with the patience and cunning that defines Monty. The will is more than a document. It is the key that unlocks the truth behind Monty's foresight, revealing a level of control and strategy that reshapes how viewers understand the events of Season 3. Monty's true power in Season 3 is revealed not just in what he does, but in who he is. His intelligence is quiet, almost invisible, but it radiates in every decision he makes. While other characters react emotionally, making choices driven by anger, loyalty, or confusion, Monty operates from a place of calculated calm. He doesn't rush. He observes, waits, and times his moves with precision. This is the final piece of the puzzle when considering the theory that he knew Cami would fire Tommy. Monty's personality itself makes him capable of anticipating others' actions, reading intentions, and subtly shaping outcomes without ever overtly interfering. Throughout the season, viewers can see Monty maneuvering in ways that seem casual but are far from accidental. He places himself in the right place at the right time, listens just long enough to gather information, and lets events unfold naturally around him. It is a delicate dance of influence, never pushing too hard, never revealing his hand, yet guiding the story toward the outcome he has predicted. Monty's interactions with other characters are rarely direct manipulations. Instead, they are exercises in psychological strategy. He knows how Tommy reacts to stress, how Cami balances emotion with responsibility, and how others around them might inadvertently reinforce his plan. Each observation, each choice, contributes to the momentum leading to the firing. Monty's mastery is also evident in how he controls perception. To the outside world, he may seem supportive or uninvolved, but underneath lies a strategist orchestrating events with a clear vision. The will, as previously discussed, acts as both shield and sword in this strategy. It protects him legally while simultaneously confirming his foresight. Monty's calm demeanor masks the intricate mental map he holds of every character's likely reactions. He knows exactly how each move will be interpreted, and he leverages that knowledge to create scenarios where outcomes appear spontaneous yet are, in reality, meticulously engineered. Even the smallest gestures demonstrate his control. A nod, a look, a casual comment, all can influence timing, mood, or decision-making. Monty doesn't need confrontation. He only needs to exist in the right spaces and respond in ways that reinforce the trajectory he desires. When Tommy's mistakes accumulate, when Cami hesitates or grows frustrated, Monty is already several steps ahead, predicting each response and ensuring that the chain of events flows toward his ultimate goal. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but when pieced together, the pattern is undeniable. Season 3 is full of moments that seem coincidental, but through Monty's lens, every coincidence is an intentional setup, a calculated move in a larger game. Monty's patience is another key element of his strategy. Unlike other characters who act impulsively, Monty waits for the perfect moment to strike. Whether through the presentation of the will or through the natural escalation of tensions between Cami and this patience allows him to maintain the appearance of innocence while everything he has set in motion unfolds exactly as he predicted. His influence isn't about forcing actions. It's about shaping the environment and guiding choices until they align perfectly with his plan. In this way, the firing of Tommy is not a shock or an accident. it is the combination of months of silent calculation, observation, and subtle orchestration. Perhaps the most striking aspect of Monty's mastery is how little anyone suspects him. Even those closest to the events fail to see the invisible threads he is pulling. His calm and seemingly supportive exterior makes him the last person anyone would accuse of manipulation. Yet when the will is revealed, when Cami is fired, and when all the consequences play out, the pieces start to fit together. Monty's foresight becomes clear. He anticipated reactions, controlled perception, and used patience as a weapon. The theory that he knew Cami would fire Tommy is no longer speculative. The combination of his personality, his subtle maneuvers, and the carefully crafted will prove it. By the end of this section, viewers can see the full scope of Monty's strategy. Season 3 is not simply a story about conflict, mistakes, or emotions. It is a demonstration of one man's ability to control events without ever being overt. The firing of Tommy, the shaping of Cami's decisions, and the orchestration of consequences are all part of a carefully executed plan. Monty's personality, calm, observant, strategic, combined with the tools he prepares in advance, like the will, ensures that every outcome unfolds according to his vision. Nothing about Season 3 is random. Everything aligns with Monty's subtle, relentless influence. In the end, it is not power, anger, or force that defines Monty's success. It is patience, intelligence, and the quiet mastery of everyone around him. Monty's true power in Season 3 is revealed not just in what he does, but in who he is. His intelligence is quiet, almost invisible, but it radiates in every decision he makes. While other characters react emotionally, making choices driven by anger, loyalty, or confusion, Monty operates from a place of calculated calm. He doesn't rush. He observes, waits, and times his moves with precision. This is the final piece of the puzzle when considering the theory that he knew Cami would fire Tommy. Monty's personality itself makes him capable of anticipating others' actions, reading intentions, and subtly shaping outcomes without ever